Coming to you from the Hudson Media Group studio, this is Talking Politics, and I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist. Top 50 Latino was voted on by the Latino Spirit online magazine, along with the United States Latino Affairs Initiative, as well as being the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media. That's right, folks. It's me, Fernando Uribe, because today I'm necessary in this era of deception. And folks, once again, hope you had a wonderful President's Day weekend and so they got to enjoy some time with family and friends. And ladies and gentlemen, politics never takes a break here on this show, so let's get started. Here's what I'm thinking about right now. Folks, let me just say this, that I like to go after all of the awful journalists that are doing us a disservice on a daily basis. I do it quite frequently, and it's really not difficult to do when so many of them give it to me on a silver platter, whether it's Tom Moran, Tommy Boy from the Star-Ledger, whether it's Chucky, Charles Style from the Bergen Record, along with NorthJersey.com, little Terrence McDonald with the New Jersey Monitor, of course, little JJ Lassiter, of course, Sleepy Allen Steinberg, of course, Max the Slacker Pizarro there at Insider NJ. But certainly, folks, I think a guy that really takes the cake and, again, you have to excuse the pun, it's indeed Uncle Dave, and that's David Cruz with NJ Spotlight News. And, one of the things that I really dislike about David is how disingenuous he is, because this is a guy who, let's be fair, and yes, I'll give him his flowers. He's been in the media business for over 30 years, right? Started locally being the editor of the Hudson Reporter, sort of moving his way up into NJPBS, eventually succeeding who I would call the GOAT of New Jersey journalism, and that's Michael Aaron, right, into his seat as the host of Reporters Roundtable with NJ Spotlight News, of course, and in addition to that, hosting Chatbox on the very same channel. But one thing that Dave doesn't do is hide how left he is, and quite frankly, how he panders and coddles many left-wing ideas on his show. Now, again, listen, it's his program. He can do whatever he wants, just like on my brand. I'm one of the leading conservative voices in the state of New Jersey, not just in Hudson County, but the entire Garden State. So, again, people might say, hey, Fernando, some people might like your brand of conservatism. Some people might not, just like some people might like Uncle Dave's brand of left-wing politics, and some people might not as well. But this is where we're getting into serious waters, as they say, because, folks, one of the leading issues during this election season is immigration, and quite frankly, the harmful effects of illegal immigration, as we're seeing on the southern border, right, where this administration has been an absolute joke in not even enforcing the border, in handcuffing Border Patrol agents, and not even really, again, when you talk about a man who swore an oath to uphold the Constitution, well, folks, there's a provision in the Constitution called sovereignty. And one of the provisions of the President of the United States is to preserve our borders. Again, it's written into the document. So when Joe Biden, again, and however sleepy he was that day when he took the oath of office, at some point when he said, I swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States, well, he's not doing that. Now, again, I'm not trying to call the man treasonous and call him a traitor per se, but he's certainly incompetent at the very least by not even trying to address the chaos that's going on, not just at the southern border, but with this massive invasion of illegals to our cities, whether it's along the southern border in states like Texas and New Mexico and Arizona, or even in California, or those migrants being bussed up here into New York and New Jersey collectively, or even to Florida. Folks, illegals are causing our communities great harm. We're seeing it right across the river, right? We saw New York City police officers being assaulted by illegals. And no, it's not migrants. And this is, again, folks, words matter. Terminology matters. And this is where someone like Uncle Dave, who's been in the business, who knows what he's doing. So it's not like, oh, Dave just woke up yesterday and got into the news business. David Cruz has been at this for decades. And David Cruz, again, continues to be immensely disingenuous when it comes to reporting on what's going on right now. And one of his recent stories, again, you could check it out. I'm not going to give you the link or anything, but you can check out one of his recent stories that were featured on NJ Spotlight News. And by the way, shout out to NJ Spotlight News for putting, Brianna Vanozzi out there every single night during the newscast. I mean, listen, this MILF is really nice to look at. So with all fairness to NJ Spotlight News, that's a pretty good deal. Okay, you can save, senior political correspondent David Cruz for voiceovers on videos because, let's be honest, the less we see of Dave on our screens, I think the better it is for our eyes, right? But never mind that, because I don't want to sort of go for the low-hanging fruit. But where Dave continues to do us a disservice is talking about issues like immigration and then not having serious people on his programs, whether he's interviewing them or whether he's doing segments on them, right? And again, listen, I can go with a few people here, of course, but one person that stands out for me, I think, and quite frankly, Nadia Morsi. Check out this photogenic woman right here. Obviously, you can see it in the slideshow, right? I believe she does policies for a staunch left-wing organization called Make the Road New Jersey, who never likes to be challenged on anything. Because again, I know this firsthand since they've blocked me on all social media when I've held them accountable for all the left-wing nonsense that they espouse on a daily basis. But whether it's Morsi or whether it's State Senator Teresa Ruiz, another enabler of illegals in the state, a woman who crusaded and championed the efforts to make sure that we gave driver's licenses to illegals back in 2019. Okay? A woman who in the state Senate is proud to coddle illegals, but folks, trust me when I tell you, if Teresa Ruiz ever came within a mile of an ICE detention center or even some of these migrant shelters, that would be a miracle. Because again, women like Teresa Ruiz, okay, women like, and let me make sure I get the name right because I didn't catch it the first time there, okay. But for example, again, Nadia Morsi, who works for Make the Road New Jersey, or again, and this just I can't stop but laugh here. U.S. Senate candidate Patricia Campos Medina, who I wouldn't let manage a lemonade stand, but somehow this woman thinks that she's somehow qualified to run and ultimately win a seat in the United States Senate. Okay? Or here's a better one, okay? Here's a better one right here. All right, little Chiquitin, okay, little shorty rock there. Hector, Soso Guerra, failed House candidate back in 2020, who's again one of these, progressives and is a proud member of the Democratic Socialists of Hudson County and New Jersey. These are the people that Uncle Dave invites to his show to talk about illegal immigration. Now, again, let me preface this by saying that the context around this segment is based on the fact that the senior United States Senator currently is Robert Menendez. Now, he has not yet announced his intentions as to what to do this year. As we all know, he's pending a trial in May in federal court in New York City on alleged bribery and other charges. And again, folks, I'm always someone that is a staunch proponent of due process. Okay? I'm a big fan of the 45th president, and just like he's entitled to due process, so is Senator Bob Menendez. You see, folks, conservatives and liberals can't have it both ways. You can't pick and choose who you like and who deserves due process. If you believe in due process, well then, if you believe in it for the 45th president, like I do, then you should believe in it for the senior United States Senator. Okay? Now, both men are going to have their day in court. And of course, we know that, if anything, we've learned about this Justice Department or state prosecutors or municipal prosecutors, okay, is that they all have agendas. Now, we'll see if indeed Bob Menendez is guilty. We'll see. He'll be tried before a jury of his peers. Certainly, yes, it looks quite incriminating in terms of the amount of evidence compiled by the U.S. attorneys. But folks, it's this Justice Department. Really? Like there aren't things to doubt or question about this Justice Department or this FBI? Haven't we learned that already with the 45th president and the witch hunt against him? Would it really surprise you if there's a witch hunt against Bob Menendez too? It wouldn't surprise me. Nothing would surprise you with this Justice Department. But again, let me not delve off the main topic here. Again, Bob Menendez has not decided whether or not to run for re-election for his Senate seat. Obviously, Democrats have decided to sort of move forward and obviously are sort of embroiled in a very, very nasty primary process currently between U.S. Representative Andy Kim out of the 3rd Congressional District in South Jersey, and of course the Queen herself, Her Royal Highness, the wife of Governor Phil Murphy, Tammy Murphy. Now, certainly, of course, we have other candidates such as longtime perpetual campaigner and socialist Larry Hamm, and of course, clueless academics like Patricia Campos Medina, who again, I wouldn't trust to run a lemonade stand or a hot dog stand during the summer months, but somehow she thinks that she's qualified to be a U.S. Senator. Again, a woman who's never embraced a policy that's ever even benefited New Jerseyans, but yet somehow she's for working families or for marginalized people. Folks, it's all nonsense, okay? Whether it's coming from Patty Cash, as I like to refer to her, or Larry Ham, or the other characters in this primary process. But even before we get to that, okay, getting back to the topic at hand, Uncle Dave wants to sort of focus on, well, what's going to happen to the issues about immigration? Now that it seems that one of the biggest proponents and vocal advocates in the U.S. Senate about immigration reform might no longer be there in January of 2025. Well, we'll find out. But folks, again, what makes Uncle Dave unlikable, what makes Uncle Dave insufferable, is the fact that, Dave, if you're going to have a conversation about serious issues, you need serious people. Okay? All right? Having groups like Make the Road New Jersey and their management available for comments, having someone who's not even qualified, once again, to organize and run a lemonade stand like Patty Campos Medina, or Hector Seguera, again, a guy who is, let's be fair, folks, a guy who, again, rails against the establishment, but is more than willing to serve on a housing board, okay, within a local municipality. So, wow, for a guy that's really against the establishment, you got no problem serving on a housing authority board, right? Making decisions for developers when they come into a municipality to possibly develop a new building or new complexes, right? But again, folks, these are the people lacking credibility that Uncle Dave relies on. So when it comes to having a serious conversation about immigration, have people that at least are well-intentioned. Again, I'm not trying to invite myself. I don't have really any desire to come on your show unless you ask me, but I have no yearning for it either. Okay, but if you're going to have serious people like myself, the son of immigrants, who has seen firsthand, okay, living in an area like I have in Hudson County and seeing firsthand what illegal immigration has done to Hudson County, to New Jersey, to the country, okay, in destroying the quality of life in the community, where crime is running rampant in New York City and other parts of the state because we're letting the illegals run amok, okay, where we're having chaos on the southern border. And what is this administration doing? Okay, a president who's cognitively declining before our very eyes every hour of the day, and then his successor, God help us, if something were to happen to this clown, then we're stuck with the laughing, the cackling hyena, Kamala Harris, who I wouldn't trust to run a Target or a Walmart, okay? And again, proof that clearly they're giving law degrees away in the state of California when she went and took the bar exam, okay? But these are the people that are not being held accountable for what's going on at the border, for what's going on with illegal immigration running rampant, with the fact that border crossings have almost quadrupled during this administration of Joe Biden, where they were at all-time lows under Donald Trump, where again, they were deporting people in massive numbers, right, in Joe Biden's former boss, Barack Obama, but no one ever talks about that, okay? He would just want to sort of demonize Donald Trump. Oh, he's a racist, he's a xenophobe, he's this and that, but do you know what he did? He made sure to deport people that aren't supposed to be here. Because again, folks, sovereignty, that's one of the responsibilities of the President of the United States. It's written into the document, preserving sovereignty. So if you're going to put your hand on a Bible and say, I swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America to the best of my ability, well, Joe, you're not really doing that. And unfortunately, when you have jokes masquerading as journalists like Uncle Dave enabling this, acquiescing to left-wing policies. Again, folks, these are not migrants, okay? In our cities, at train stations in Secaucus, in Edison or anywhere else, or in New York City. They're illegals, okay? Let's stop with the semantics, because again, we see it all the time from organizations in New Jersey. Not just Make the Road New Jersey. Again, this is just a small sample size of people that are doing us a disservice, okay? You think Miss Caramel Macchiato, Amy Torres, the executive director of the New Jersey Alliance for Immigrant Justice, is serious about immigration? Of course not. She's too busy sipping her third caramel macchiato and feeding one of her 7 cats in her little bougie downtown Jersey City apartment. Okay? Or other organizations like the Latino Action Network, or Action Together New Jersey, or New Jersey Citizen Action, or the ACLU of New Jersey, right? Or insufferable feminists like Corin Frankfurt and other clowns Folks, these are the types of candy asses that are opining about policy. And unfortunately, they're the ones that have the ears of people in Trenton and in many blue states across this country. But when we think about journalism, folks, aren't we kind of at a crossroads now? Because we're relying on journalists to be honest and objective and fair and to report the information as accurately as possible. We're not getting that here in New Jersey. We're certainly not getting it with all the aforementioned journalists or lack thereof. Really, it's, propagandists masquerading as journalists. But folks, the chief propagandist, I would argue, is Uncle Dave. Because David Cruz isn't serious about even addressing immigration reform. He might pander and he'll have these clowns on his show as contributors. But do you think Uncle Dave is serious about immigration reform? Of course not. He's not even serious about learning Spanish. And for a guy that's, Mr. Boricua, and I'm such a proud Puerto Rican, my man, would it kill you to learn some Spanish if you're really that Latino? Just curious. But folks, when it comes to tackling issues like immigration reform, it's journalists like me that are having the conversations, not Uncle Dave or the rest of the clown patrol in New Jersey journalism. And that's what I'm thinking about right now. Now, some local news for your consideration. And once again, a special thank you to a member of the Pinnacle here in Hudson County, fellow Rutgers University alum, and the editor of the Hudson County View, my good friend, John R. Hines. And he just recently reported this week that Hoboken Mayor Ravi Bala conducted an internal poll showing him statistically tied with U.S. Representative Robert Menendez. Folks, I can't even begin. I'm trying to keep my composure here, folks, okay? It's hard not to laugh when you're reading nonsense like this. But again, so an internal poll conducted by the 8th District Congressional Campaign of Hoboken Mayor Ravi Bala said he is statistically tied with U.S. Representative Rob Menendez within the margin of error, 44 to 41, with 50% of respondents undecided. I mean, folks, this is just funny. Now, the poll was conducted by Washington, D.C.-based GQR, with 403 likely Democratic voters surveyed. I wonder what Democratic voters were surveyed. Maybe those within the Hoboken Democratic Committee? Maybe some within, the Lollipop Guild in Hoboken? You know what I'm talking about, right? Councilman Phil Cohen, Joe Quintero, Councilwoman Emily Jabor, the Lollipop Guild, right? Those completely uncoordinated clowns in Hoboken municipal government. Were those the ones that were polled? Were their family members polled? Were Ravi Bala's kids polled? Were Ravi Bala's wife polled? Like, who exactly was polled here? Okay. Now, they differed from the internal poll from the Menendez campaign, which had him leading Bala by 22 points after surveying 400 registered Democratic voters. Bala's poll also shows Menendez has 87% name recognition with an approval rating of 35% favorable and 41% unfavorable. Okay. Now, again, according to GQR senior partner Anna Greenberg, in a polling memo, she goes on to say, quote, "We have two competing surveys with an important methodological difference. The Menendez survey was conducted among registered Democratic voters, not among voters with a history of voting in the Democratic primary." Folks, semantics up the wazoo, folks, okay? Even with a competitive Senate primary on the ballot, it is implausible that 100% of registered Democrats will participate in this primary. Why does that matter? Well, registered voters are less informed and less engaged than primary voters. Not only would they be less familiar with Bala, they would also be less conversant with charges against Bob Menendez. Our polls show that the most reliable Democratic primary voters are the most hostile to Rob Menendez. So as expectedly, the Mile Square City's mayor, and the poll pushes back against the notion that 3 out of 4 primary voters do not consider the corruption charges against U.S. Senator Bob Menendez, Rob's father, to be a significant issue. Out of the 403 respondents, Senator Menendez's favorability was underwater, 27% favorable and 60% unfavorable, while 73% believe, quote, he is guilty of bribery and serving the interests of foreign governments. Additionally, 64% indicated that it is time for new leadership in Congress. Folks, I mean, who would think, folks, okay, that Ravi Bala, who has skated by the skin of his teeth as mayor in Hoboken, should be anywhere near representing the good men and women of the 8th Congressional District. Okay? Now, let me say this. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I like Rob Menendez personally. He's a friend of mine. We've gone out to dinner. We've eaten. We've had drinks. We've talked off the record. Great guy. Have a good rapport with him. Have a good rapport with his father. Okay? And there are plenty of issues that me and Rob Menendez disagree on fundamentally. As a conservative myself, and as someone who's a staunch, loyal Democratic voter. I'm not sure what to call Rob, whether he's like really a progressive. I mean, he's more of a classical liberal, but he's certainly maybe center left or a little bit more lean left. But the point is that, again, Rob Menendez at least has put in the work. Folks, I've said this before on the program. Okay? He's a freshman U.S. representative. He's gone to Washington and he's done the work. He's brought back federal dollars to the 8th Congressional District. A very diverse district, folks, by the way. Okay, most people think about Hudson County, but there are nearby municipalities in Bergen County and also in Essex County as well that are part of the 8th Congressional District. Okay? And Rob has done the work. What has Ravi Bala accomplished? Riding on the coattails of Don Zimmer, who was a joke as a mayor in Hoboken, who thankfully stepped down to let Ravi Bala run? Okay? What's Ravi Bala's biggest accomplishment in Hoboken? What, repainting the crosswalks during Pride Month? Seeing rainbows, in every crosswalk in downtown Hoboken during Pride Month? Or erecting a new park as Hoboken continues to flood underwater? Right? Yeah, I'm sure all those dog parks and, drag queen story hours are really going to help Hoboken residents in the downtown section as they're walking through water to go get their morning bagel. All right? Or a copy of the New York Post or the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times in the morning. Right? What exactly has Ravi Bala accomplished in Hoboken? Right? Other than acquiesce to woke policies, whether it's to coddle the alphabet army in Hoboken, okay, along with the rest of the lollipop. Again, folks, could you find 3 more incompetent, useless humans in municipal government than Phil Cohen, than Joe Quintero, and Emily Jabor? Joining them, of course, is their leader, right? The scout leader, as they say, the scoutmaster, right? Ravi Bala in Hoboken. What is Ravi Bala going to run on? That he's allowed Hoboken to continue to be gentrified? Right? That parking still remains a headache for almost all of Hoboken residents that don't live in one of the $3,000 a month rents in some of the lavish buildings along Sinatra Drive or downtown Hoboken, right? That Hoboken continues to be underwater during flooding, that flooding is not being addressed. Oh, but folks, during Pride Month, that drag queen story hour, I mean, that's important, get those drag queens out, let's coddle gays and lesbians as much as we can in Hoboken, right? At the expense of kids, also at the expense of parents, right? All right. That is Ravi Bala's record, folks. That's what Ravi Bala has to run on. Is that a guy you want representing you in the 8th Congressional District? Folks, the choice is clear. I'm not making any endorsements here. I'm just telling you what is apparently evident to anybody with a brain. Rob Menendez has worked hard during his freshman year in the House of Representatives, and a guy that, if anyone deserves a reelection, it's not the Democrat at the top of the ballot. It's certainly not Joe Biden. It's certainly not Tammy Murphy. Okay? It's certainly not some other House members I can think of, Frank Pallone, and some other useless Dems in Central and Northwest Jersey. But folks, when we think about someone in the House of Representatives who's done the work, who's rolled up the sleeves, who's gotten dollars back from Washington back to the 8th Congressional District, that's Rob Menendez. What's Ravi Bala going to do? Ask for more money so we can paint all the crosswalks in the 8th Congressional District for rainbow colors during Pride Month? That's what Ravi Bala prioritizes. He prioritizes pronouns over property taxes. That's all you need to know about Ravi Bala and the rest of the woke fools that encompass his campaign and all the woke fools that somehow support his campaign. Let's stay in Hoboken, and once again, a special thank you to a member of the Pinnacle, fellow Rutgers alum, and of course, the editor of the Hudson County View, John Hines, for his reporting on this story. Okay? Also, shout out to Daniel Loa, obviously working on the story as well. Apparently, there were dueling rallies last week in front of Hoboken City Hall as a call for a Gaza ceasefire and, of course, a show of solidarity for Israel quite evident in downtown Hoboken. And, of course, in an unexpected scene outside Hoboken City Hall, 2 groups hosting rallies, but the ongoing conflict in the Middle East were quite evident, with one calling for a ceasefire and the other urging to stand strong for Israel. All right? So, for example, the Foundry Girl Instagram page, right, led a chant, "Free, free Palestine, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." Folks, if you know anything about that song is anti-Semitic in its nature. Okay? If you know the meaning of that song, it calls for the eradication and annihilation of Israel. Okay? So for Evelyn Ibarra, who runs the Foundry Girl Instagram page, blew up her Instagram and remind her about how evil that song is. Or the rest of the jihadists marching up and down Washington Street, and being stationary right in front of City Hall. Okay? People that have no compunction whatsoever ripping down posters of men, women, and children as young as infants that are still missing in that area of the world. But they have no problem ripping down those posters. You don't believe me? Check out YouTube. Check out Instagram pages. Check out your algorithm, folks. Stop posting memes. Stop, with the makeup tutorials. Pay attention to what's going on, folks. And you'll see a lot of these jihadists in front of Hoboken City Hall saying, free, free Palestine from the river to the sea. Palestine. Folks, it's a really anti-Semitic song. It calls for the destruction of Israel. Our only ally in the Middle East. The only democracy in the Middle East. Okay? Well, every other country in that region of the world, all right, is a piss-poor theocracy. That's not what Israel is. Okay? And for a country that has every right to defend itself, people that are always about Palestine this and Palestine that, folks, I'm sick of it. I could care less about Palestine. I said it. I'm the only journalist in New Jersey that's going to tell you the truth. I could care less about Palestine. I really could care less. Okay? I care about Israel. I care about what they stand for. I care about them being the only ally in that region of the world that believes in uniting with the United States against radical Islam, against radical terrorism, against radical regimes that permeate in that part of the world. Take your pick. Iran, the Sudan, Saudi Arabia. Take your pick, folks. There's no shortage of tyrannical and hostile regimes to the United States in that part of the world. But what I will say to you is that Israel is a country we need to stand behind. And clearly, a lot of these jihadists that stood in front of Hoboken City Hall don't feel the same way. Folks, don't be fooled by it. Trust me. These are the jihadists and these are the people that are being a nuisance, that are standing behind Palestine. And quite frankly, you shouldn't either. And that's our show for this week. To check out all the excellent programming brought to you by the Hudson Media Group, the leader in independent media right here in Hudson County, check out their websites, www.hmgtvshows.com, as well as www.livestream.com/hmgtv. Don't forget to like the Hudson Media Group on Facebook. Of course, follow them on Instagram and Twitter. And don't forget, for all you YouTube subscribers, click the subscribe button and you'll be automatically notified of all the outstanding content brought to you by the Hudson Media Group. Whether it's this program, Hudson County Live hosted by John Highness, Stick at Night hosted by Hudson County Commissioner Anthony Stick Romano, or a plethora of other outstanding programs that the Hudson Media Group brings you every single week. Of course, you can check out Talking Politics with Fernando Uribe, of course, on Facebook, and of course, make sure you follow it on Instagram and Twitter. And always remember, ladies and gentlemen, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it's always Talking Politics right here with the Hudson Media Group. I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, Top 50 Latino as voted on by the Latino Spirit Online magazine, along with the United States Latino Affairs Initiative, and certainly I'll continue to be the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media because, folks, my level of honesty is necessary in this era of deception. Yes, it's me, Fernando Uribe. Folks, thank you so much for watching. Always, thank you for supporting the Hudson Media Group, and we'll see you next time here for the latest edition of Talking Politics with Fernando Uribe via the Hudson Media Group. And thanks for stopping by.